Good morning. This is interesting. It's Tuesday here in Cypress, Texas. Weather's nice. It's gonna be a good run of weather today. In Luke chapter 10, I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, my mind already started going towards some of these things. I started thinking about I'd read a book by Joe Dispenza. He's a chiropractor and a cyclist. Got in an accident, got hit by a dump truck, and fractured some vertebrae in his back. And he chose, instead of not to use the traditional way of dealing with that, of putting like an erector set on his spine. So there he is in a halo in traction for like 8 months. And he said he knew that there was a supernatural healing power, and so he's trying to, through the power of his mind, access that. And he's just, meditating for like 9 months, and then like in 2 weeks his body healed itself, and then he became, a metaphysicist, and he goes around and talks, gets people to meditate and to access this part of their system, right? So then I'm reading in chapter 10, this is where Christ sends out the disciples, like 72 of them in pairs, and tells them, what are indicators of somebody that's, can listen to them and who's not. And this is, good sales training. And then he tells a story. There's an attorney, somebody who knows the law, right? And he's trying to test Christ. And this is something this is the same stories talked about in the other Gospels, okay? And it's just a little different. But in this one, he's talking about the Good Samaritan, right? The guy's, injured alongside the road, or he'd been robbed and left for dead. And a Levite goes by and doesn't do nothing, and, but a Samaritan. The Samaritans weren't Jews. They were neighboring the Jews. And the Samaritan helps the guy and takes him to the doctor and tells the doctor whatever, he needs, I'll pay for it, right? And he's asking that guy, who is his neighbor? And the answer is the Samaritan, right? Someone who didn't follow his way, okay? In chapter 9, talks about this guy who's preaching, but wasn't part of the disciples, wasn't following Christ. And Christ's like, no, don't stop him, right? Whoever's not against us is for us. Okay. There's here's the thing, okay? And there are people who are very spiritual that never read the Bible, okay? And I have a pastor buddy who, for years, I didn't know he couldn't read. He's dyslexic, okay? And he would read one verse in scripture and just mentally grind on that verse and meditate on it, right? And then first book he ever read actually was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And now that dude is reading everything about money and finance, and wants to get into real estate investing. He's doing seminars and all this kind of stuff, right? And he was a pastor, and now he can read. He reads everything, gets his hands on, right? And so here's when you look at the difference between Origin and Marcion. Oh man, there's so much, right? It reminds me of when I first went through catechism to become a Catholic, and there was this officer came to our command, and we went to Paraguay, and when he was there, he was asking, this one guy was a Jehovah's Witness, and he's asking him, what his faith is. He told him, and he pulls out this book and he tells him what's wrong with his faith, right? and then, hey, and then anyway, focus on yourself, right? Deep on yourself when you read the scriptures. It'll all come together.